How we doing? Drink with James, episode 95. If I am being totally honest with you, which I try and be, I am exhausted. We just had a board meeting today, which we have fairly often, and we're slaying it. So like, board meeting was great, but you ever have those things where like, you have something, a big meeting or something happening, or you're on set for a job and you have to be on for so long and you're kind of stressing and preparing beforehand, and then it happens and it ends and you just realize you're like fucking exhausted and you just like, your whole body just shuts down. I feel like that is what is happened to me. I've sat on the couch for the last hour just like exhaling heavily. And rubbing my face. But bring the energy here, you know, because I understand I have a responsibility to you, my loyal fans. I don't have anything. I was going to say something clever, but I got nothing. And look, I'm just sitting here in front of a camera talking to you. Mark Zuckerberg is trying to explain the internet to a bunch of geriatric, you know, like America's geriatric leadership, explaining like what Facebook is. Like, he must just be sitting there being like, you guys are all so dumb. It's like, I mean, you know, if you ever have to explain what you do as an influencer to your grandparents, it's difficult. And so just try and imagine Mark trying to explain like the entirety of Facebook and how they deal with content management for the world's largest content platform in the world. I imagine it is not a very fun thing, especially with 300 cameras pointed directly at your face. But look, he knows a thing or two about optics. I think, you know, it is important to put your best self forward. His suit looked terrible today, but did you also, I don't know if you guys saw this, but they have him sitting on like a 4-inch cushion so that he looks taller. He's only 5'7". So the Facebook team put a big cushion on the chair so he's like, looks like he's a lot taller because they don't want him to look like this puny little like, you know, nerd that's like getting yelled at by a bunch of old people. Look, end of the day, he's a billionaire, and that's awesome and something we all strive to be. And we probably won't be. So cheers to Mark. I hope he does well. Obviously my livelihood is dependent on him, so I am pro Zuckerberg. Mark, if you're watching this, I love you. I know that Evan Spiegel turned down your $3 billion. If you want to give half of that to me, I will gladly accept. You can have Fohr card, you can have my liver, you can I don't even care what you do. You know, you can have whatever you want. I'll take you shopping. You obviously need help. I could help there. We get you a new haircut. Consider it. I know you're busy this week, but if you ever find yourself in a Drink with James hole, and let's say you're binging all weekend and Priscilla's like, Mark, what are you doing? Like, you gotta fucking deal with the baby. And he's like, I'm binging on Drink with James. Get away from me. And you finally get to episode 95. Fohr card, recently Fohr, is for sale. You can buy it. James@Fohr.co. Thank you. Question 1 is, do I think that influencers should delete posts that don't get many likes? I got a question. Do you kill your kid just because they're not as smart as your other kid? Like, no, of course you don't. You love that child just the same. These are your children. If you publish the fucking post and it's not doing well, well then like, here's the thing. You should be publishing something because you want to publish it. If you want to publish it and other people don't like it, honestly, who gives a shit? Nobody is going, I can say this confidently, okay? Because I run a company that does a lot of this. Nobody on our team is going through your feed being like, well, I was gonna give this person the job, but this one photo has 1,000 likes when all their other ones have 2,000 likes. So it's just not gonna happen. We're not gonna give you the job. Nobody does that. Like, nobody gives a shit. And look at every influencer's engagement. There is huge swings in that engagement. And if you're sitting there in the first 15 minutes refreshing, looking to see what the engagement is, to see if you want to delete it or not delete it, I think you should probably get a fucking hobby, honestly. Like, I understand, you know, we talked with Jenny and she said that first 30 minutes to an hour that she posts, she's on there engaging. She's trying to get the algorithm to, like, you know, kind of grab her post and throw it up. So she's trying to engage with people, bringing her to the feed. That totally makes sense. I think that's a smart strategy. If you're sitting there and saying, if it doesn't get to, you know, 500 likes by 30 minutes, I'm going to delete it. I think you're adding a level of complexity to your life that you don't need to have. You are judged by the body of your work, you know, not by any single piece of it. Now, and that's the beauty of Instagram. You know, there was always this saying in advertising, like, you were only as good as your last ad. But most creatives, you know, that were writing advertisements were doing, you know, 5, 10 of those a year maybe. So, like, yeah, those things were important, and there was such a huge investment into those ads that, like, they had to work. And if you were wrong, then you were wrong in a big way. It wasted potentially millions of dollars. So, like, that makes sense. But, like, with Instagram, you're posting every single day. The stakes are really not that high on a single Instagram. So I would be disinclined personally to work with somebody who is deleting posts from their feed, because it would show me that they are, to me, like, that would show that you're insecure about your voice and that you feel like the engagement is more important than the content that's going out there. And I couldn't disagree more with that, honestly. So I understand I understand how your mind goes to that place where you think, oh shit, I should just delete this. But I think you have to try and be bigger than that, and say, when you hit publish, be like, this is something I want to post, and so I'm going to post it. And sometimes you're like, oh, this isn't going to do well, and it doesn't do well, but, like, if you like it, who cares? And again, just because someone didn't like the post does not mean that it's not something that they will remember. It just means it's not something that got them to double tap on something. So you're wrong in thinking that just because someone didn't like something didn't mean that it's not good. And if you start building your feed just around likes, it might work for you, but you might find that you're running a feed that you don't really like. Question 2 is, how do you deal with a brand that's inconsistent with communication? How can I follow up without looking desperate and without losing the upper hand? Okay. We've said this many times before. Brands essentially oftentimes are 1 or 2 people, right? Like, even look at a huge brand, you're going to probably be interacting with 1 or 2 people. Some people are very good at following up and staying on top of their email and being organized, and some people are not. I fall into the are not category. I am not good at staying on top of my email. I'm not good at following up. This is why I have an assistant who helps me with this stuff. This is why I've hired a lot of people who are very organized and smarter than me and can kind of handle all of this shit that I am incompetent with. So for me, if I haven't answered someone's email and they follow up politely, and then they follow up again and follow up again and follow up again, I actually appreciate it. Because as somebody who struggles with remembering things and can be a little bit scattered, I actually appreciate the follow-up. So I think that, you know, you email someone, they're like, I'd love to work together. Okay, and you're like, oh my gosh, amazing, love to work with you too. Like, let's get on the phone. Let's talk details. Crickets. 2 or 3 days. Hey, just following up here. Crickets. Okay, you wait another 2 or 3 days. Hey, just want to like ping this back up to your inbox. Let me know if you have time this week to talk. Nothing. Then I'd probably wait 3 or 4 days. Now, sometimes what people do is that, I've been guilty of this. Sometimes people feel like if I don't have good news for you, I'm not going to give you any news. So let's say I want to work with you, and then my boss says, hey, we have to put the influencer thing on hold for another month. Some people will say, hey, so sorry to do this, but we're going to have to put this on hold for a month. I don't want you to spin your wheels, like, let's touch base in a month. That's what they should do. Sometimes you feel bad and you just say, I'm going to ignore you for a month, or I'm going to wait for details, right? So maybe your boss said, hey, we're going to put this on hold. Let's talk in a week about when to do it. So they'll just ignore you. So I would follow up 2 or 3 times with just a, hey, just following up, just following up. After that, you should probably start to get creative. I would start to space out my follow-ups a little bit more. Maybe go to 4 to 7 days for follow-up each time. But start to get creative. Follow up with something totally unrelated to the project. So again, let's enter a scenario in which a brand said they wanted to work with you and you've been incapable of getting them to give you any details, get on the phone or anything like that. You've emailed them 4 times, they're not responding. You're starting to say, shit, is this deal slipping away from me? Well, wake up. Let's say you see that they posted something on Instagram that you think is really cute, or like it's a great post, or you think it was really creative. Maybe just send them a link to that and be like, hey, I saw this looks great. Nice work. Or, hey, I found this article I thought you might find interesting. Or, hey, I was thinking about an idea. I have a friend who's going to Hawaii, maybe they could, whatever. Just something totally unrelated to the project, because there starts to be, as you continue to ignore somebody's messages, every time you ignore a message, guilt is piled on a little bit more. And sometimes it becomes hard to respond to it because you're now embarrassed of how long it took you to respond. And you're reacting to, that person who's not responding is reacting not to their desire to ignore you, but to the guilt they feel for having ignored you for this long. And it's counterintuitive, but I can just say, as somebody who's struggled with this in my life, it's something I've felt of like, shit, I'm supposed to get back to this person. I'm such a piece of shit. Like, how can I now just be like, hey, no, I haven't responded to the last 7 messages, but here I am. So understand that psychology and give them an out. Give them an easy way to respond to you without having to maybe mention this part right here. And they can be like, oh, that's like, thanks so much for reaching out about the Instagram. It was a really fun project. I haven't forgot about you. My boss is just putting this on ice. Okay, now you've given them a way to say something to you without having to be like, on the 7th email, oh my gosh, how's it going? So sorry I haven't responded. It's like, motherfucker, it's been 7 emails. Like, what have you been doing? So emailing them with something else gives them a way to reopen the line of communication without having to be like embarrassed themselves. Do I think you lose the upper hand by emailing a bunch of times? You never had the upper hand. If you think you had the upper hand, you're in a fantasy land. If you had the upper hand, they'd be responding a lot more. Like, chances are you don't. So understand your position and be like, that's totally fine, So the more hungry you can seem, the better in that case. You're not winning any, like, this isn't a chess match. This isn't like 2 titans, like, Standard Oil and like, what was the steel one?
American Steel.
Is it American Steel?
I want to say it's American Steel.
This isn't like, Standard Oil and the United Fruit Company, like trying to like negotiate, and they're both, like you want to work for this brand, like you don't have the upper hand. That's okay. That just means you need to be more persistent. So, number 3
is
now question 3 is, who is really taking their campaigns to the next level and why? Look, Tim sent me this question earlier this morning, which is rare. We usually do it kind of off the cuff. I ignored him. I'm sorry, Tim.
nothing new.
Yeah, but I was busy today. I had a board meeting. Who's taking their campaigns to the next level? I don't know if you saw the Chloe activation in the desert. It was for their fragrance, I think. I thought that was really great. I thought the influencer selection was right on. I thought the whole world that they built around the influencers that were there was amazing. I personally love the American West, as you know. So there was a lot of kind of Western bohemian vibes, and they picked the right influencers, and it was beautiful, and they had great opportunities for content. So I think they recently have been my favorite non-Fohr campaign. I thought they did a great job. Now, individual influencers, I struggle. We've talked about some of the people that we've liked recently, but I haven't found anyone else that I'm like, whoa, this is incredible. And this is something we've been talking a lot internally about, which is, if you say, who is killing it in campaigns? Who is doing a really great job? I think part of the issue is that influencers aren't asking, what is a great job? What does that look like? How can I help you be successful? It's getting to be, I see too many campaigns, again, where the influencer is just like taking a quick photo and being like wearing blank and mentioning the brand, and that's it. And I think as an influencer, when the brand briefs you, you have to really try and understand what their strategy is, understand what success looks like for them, understand how you're going to help them achieve that success. I'm just not seeing that level of professionalism in a lot of the posts. Now, I will say, obviously, I love everything that Fohr is doing, and I do think that our team is obsessed with this stuff, and we are always pushing our clients to we are trying to understand what success looks like so that we can appropriately brief influencers so that they can do a really good job. But I encourage you to think about that in your own campaigns. And if you haven't asked the brand, if you're about to hit publish on a post for a brand and you don't understand what success looks like, then how are you ever going to win? You could run, if it's a race, okay, and the fucking gun goes off and you run and you're the fastest runner on the field, but you ran the wrong way, it doesn't matter. You can't win. And so you might go one way and the brand is just like, oh, that's totally not what we wanted. And you could throw your hands up and say, well, you should have told me. And then I would say, well, you should have asked. This is a give and take, and something that we have taken on internally is that we are responsible for the success of these campaigns. And if a brand strategy is incorrect, or we believe that the way they're going about it is wrong, we can't just say, well, that's what the brand wants, because we are going to be judged on whether or not the thing is successful. So if we don't think it's going to be successful in its current form, then it is on us to try and push them to a place where we feel like it will be successful. You're going to be judged on the success anyway. So it behooves you to try and figure out what that looks like. And if you don't feel like the brief is going to achieve success inside of your world, which you know better than anyone else, then you need to go back to that brand and say, actually, could we do it this way? Because I think that's going to help achieve your goals better. So think about that the next time a brand reaches out. Very simply ask yourself, do I know what success looks like? And am I set up to help them achieve it?
Is The Rock killing it in campaigns these days?
I mean, The Rock is fucking killing it, Honestly, oh my God, The Rock is so good. He had a shoot for Under Armour 2 months ago, and he was dieting hard for 2 or 3 weeks before, and he was, complaining quite a bit about not eating much and working out like a goddamn madman, and got completely shredded, and then shot the campaign. But I follow The Rock, not obsessively, I'm not a huge fan, but I follow him and I watch his stories and I look at his posts, and I knew when that shoot happened. I knew he was dieting and preparing for it. He talked a lot about how excited he was about it because it's a collaboration with Under Armour that he did. And then he did the shoot, and he gave sneak peeks behind the scene in the shoot, and then he published the video, and he gives these very nice, he writes a lot. And this is something I think we're going to talk about in maybe next Drink with James, is that there's just no writers in the world. I don't know if y'all don't know how to write more than a sentence, or like you think that like Instagram only lets you write 1-2 lines. But one thing I love about The Rock is that like his captions are like very long. And if you're invested in the Rock brand, obviously I am, then you read those captions. But like I did know start to finish over a 4-month period, I was invested in this campaign. And then I watched the video. I didn't think it was that good. That's, you know, it's not necessarily The Rock's fault. I just don't think the creative direction was great. But the product is not targeted towards me. It's gym rats. As you can tell, I am not a gym rat. But The Rock is perpetually killing it. So with that, cheers.